All right, DIY PC builders, the time has come. You've carefully chosen all your components, and all that's left is, to actually put it together. They say it's like assembling Legos, just very expensive, delicate, and sharp Legos. Although Legos are pretty dang expensive nowadays. Anyhow, let's build a PC. This is DIY in 5. Hello everyone, and welcome to DIY in 5. My name's Trisha Hirschberger, and today's episode is part of our Build Your Own PC series, where we help you actually assemble your custom rig. Now, assembly can be a bit overwhelming, so this episode will be part 1, focused on installing your CPU, cooling, and RAM. We'll continue on with the rest in the next and final episode of the series. If you have not decided on all the shiny bits that will go inside your build, then make sure to subscribe and check out our other videos in the series. If you already have all your parts assembled, it's time to get down and dirty. And by dirty, I mean pristinely clean and static-free. You can do this. Before you start putting anything together, you need to make sure you've got all your tools and proper parts at your disposal. Think of yourself as a surgeon. You need to prep that operating table before starting surgery. The first tool you'll need is knowledge. Make sure you've read all the manuals that came with your components. And I know this can be a slog, but if there are any parts missing or you have any questions, now is the time to call the manufacturer. Next, you'll need a large, flat surface free of electricity. Do not attempt to assemble your build on carpet. You do not want to fry your system before you even start. On that note, an anti-static wrist strap or anti-static PC build mat are a great way to go, connecting you, your case, and your PSU to a common ground so no uninvited sparks decide to join the party. Lay all your components on your table and set all your packaging materials off to the side just in case anything needs to be returned. Actual tools you might need for your build include a Phillips head screwdriver, needle nose pliers, and a flashlight. I swear by my magnetized precision screwdriver kit. Tiny screws tend to get lost, and the more tools you have to retrieve them, the better this will go, trust me. Okay, it's time to do this. First, open up the main side of your case. Every case is different, but this should be relatively easy to figure out. Some people prefer to place the power supply first, while others prefer to install it after placing the motherboard. It really depends on your layout. I usually prefer to install the PSU first because it can be difficult to do after other components are installed. Once you are ready, position it with the fan pointing downward and line up the screw holes with the holes on the back of the case. Screw it into place and lay any cables over the case so they are out of the way. All right, one install down, only like a million more to go. Next, we'll turn our attention to the motherboard. Some people like to install the motherboard directly into the case, then build on it from there, but in my opinion, you'll have way more room to install components onto the motherboard outside of the case than inside. So let's move that case aside, let our motherboard be the main focus, and focus on the CPU. First, you'll open the socket, usually by lifting a lever, sometimes 2 levers and/or a metal cover, depending on what kind of processor you have. Check your CPU manufacturer instructions to be sure. There should be arrows printed on the socket and chip to help you align the CPU before setting it in place. Once it's aligned, secure it in the same way you opened it, via levers, etc. Some builders like to go right to CPU cooling next, but certain coolers can get in the way of installing the RAM, so let's install our RAM next. Start with the slot marked DIMM1 or bank 0, then open up the clips at either end of the RAM slots and align the notch in the memory connector to the raised key in the RAM bay. Not lining this up properly could damage the memory, so be careful. Push the memory firmly into place and the clips will lock back in. If you are using multiple channel memory, you will need to install the memory in the proper channels to get the expected speed boost. The bays are typically color-coded to make this easier. Refer to your motherboard manual if you have any questions, and note, when handling RAM, take care not to touch the copper stripes along the bottom edge, because that can cause damage. Okay. Now for the cooling. If your cooling solution already has a thermal compound applied, fantastic, you can use that. If not, just use a wee bit and spread it around evenly. Some thermal paste brands even include a little spatula for this purpose. Conversely, you can give it a slight twist to help spread things around. Remember, a little goes a long way. It's not icing on a cake, so no overflow down the sides, please. If you are using a thermal pad that came with your cooler, remove any protective tape from the die just before installing and be sure not to get it dirty. Also, don't try to use the thermal pad and thermal compound together. It's one or the other. Once you've got the thermal compound figured out, align the support posts for the cooler around the socket and secure everything into place. You may need to install a bracket on the underside of the motherboard. Again, a great reason to do all of this outside the case. Now, if you're using a liquid cooling solution, you'll have a few extra steps here, and you may want to pause on this step and install your cooler after the motherboard so that you can attach the fans and radiator directly to the case as needed. Be sure to follow all the manufacturer instructions for proper install for your specific cooler. Once your cooler's installed, I like to connect the heatsink fan cable or pump to the motherboard now so it doesn't get lost or forgotten. The spot labeled CPU fan on your motherboard is generally for your heatsink fan or possibly the liquid pump if there is no fan. The CPU OPT is generally for the liquid pump if there is already a fan on the other connector. And the sys fan connectors are for case fans. At this point, we'll take a small pause. Grab some coffee, a snack, quick bio break, you've earned it. You're well on your way to booting up your own custom-built rig. Woohoo! If this video has helped you in your PC building journey, please give it a like and share it with your friends. Now, I will tell you, I've got lots of friends who build PCs, and we all prefer to build a little differently. And not only is that okay, as long as it posts and runs well after stress testing, but it's also fun to learn from each other. So if you have any tips to add about installing PSU, CPU cooling, or RAM, leave them in the comments so we can all benefit from one another's journeys. Till next time, I'm Trisha Hirschberger, and you've been watching DIY in 5.